Hi, this is Brett Sankis, and this is Misconception Monday, a video series where we debunk commonly held beliefs, myths. We think about them in four broad categories: the stuff we tackle, business, law, people and relationships, and then the future and technology. And the people and relationships and future and technology is usually related to business and law. Those are the things I do in the world. But this one's a little bit off the beaten path, because the other day my wife and I had an argument over something silly, and I was reminded of a very common piece of relationship advice, that you should never go to bed angry. And I think that is an absolute myth. It is simple advice, which makes it somewhat useful, but not nearly nuanced or complete enough advice. So there's three main reasons that you should not take that as gospel, that is not great relationship advice. And by the way, there's a gentleman named John Gottman, and he runs the Gottman Institute in Seattle, and they've done tons for like 3 or 4 decades, all this primary research, watching couples over long periods of time in like a simulated environment, and they've just watched how they interact and fight and argue, and he's got all this research, tons of data, and a lot of really great stuff around it, and he debunks this myth as well. So 3 reasons. Number 1, some issues like the one that my wife and I were talking about the other night, or argued about the other night, are just really are incredibly minor issues. And I want to distinguish between the argument that on the surface is about something, but there's a lot more underneath, right? I mean, sometimes it's not that I didn't take the garbage out. I mean, it's about a pattern of something, right? There's so much more, and you gotta be sensitive to that. But some arguments really are just silly. You know, we're tired, we're upset. It's just about nothing. It's about, you know, not wanting to watch the same movie. It doesn't mean anything. So there are those kind of arguments, and there's value in being able to let that stuff slide off your back. But be careful and err on the side of understanding or thinking that there may be more behind the scenes. So if you've got one of those little arguments, look, a lot of those in a long-term relationship, you know, let's not even talk about that again. Let's go to sleep and we wake up the next day and completely forget about it. There are those type of arguments that it's really helpful if you can let that stuff slide. Number 2, there are the types of arguments that are at the exact opposite end of the spectrum. They're major issues, and those issues can't be unpacked in a couple of hours. You're not going to solve for those that night. It's impossible, or very unlikely, or you keep coming back to the same argument. That stuff too, you know, somehow you've got to figure out a way to be okay, and I'm going to give you a couple ideas about that at the end of the evening and to go to sleep. Number 3, even if it's an issue that could be solved that evening, and even if it's an issue that needs to be solved, you know, just one or the other or both of you can't let it go, sometimes you're both just too tired, or one of you is too tired. It just doesn't make sense. And there might be a time when I want to have a conversation with my wife and she's just not able to do it, and I've got to be respectful of that. Like, it doesn't mean she's never going to have that conversation, right? Which leads me to the advice here, because if the issue is just really, really stupid, you both know it, let's go to sleep, you know, you can just agree to let it go at the end of the night. And I guess it's a way of resolving it. Other ones that are more important, or you can't let go, just be respectful. Just acknowledge it. Listen, I understand. I want to talk about it. I can see you're upset about it. I just can't have this conversation now. Only do that if you're committed to having the conversation, right? And if this isn't a just let it slide off the back kind of item, then you need to come back around to those things, or they will fester and build over time. But that's just a way to handle it. And if your partner says that to you, you should be okay. I mean, you ought to be able to be okay saying that's fair enough. I mean, if it's done with sort of love and respect and so forth. So again, never go to bed angry. It's simple advice. It has some usefulness. It gets a conversation going. There are times when you should have your, you know, generally speaking, the idea of not letting arguments fester, disagreements fester, just stuffing them down is good advice. But as a broad across the board, take it to the bank, you can never go to bed angry. That is not good relationship